I never believed in curses. Until the night my pregnant wife screamed and said something kicked her from the outside. It started at exactly 2:13 a.m. That's the time burned into my memory because the digital clock beside the bed flickered once, then froze on that number like it was trying to warn me. 2:13. Sarah was 8 months pregnant. The doctor said everything was perfectly normal. The baby was healthy, strong heartbeat, no complications. But that night, nothing about her felt normal. I woke up to the sound of wet choking. At first, I thought Sarah was crying in her sleep. But then I heard it again, a strained, breathless gasp, like someone was squeezing the air out of her lungs. "Sarah?" I whispered. No response, just that awful sound again. I sat up slowly, my heart already pounding harder than it should. Moonlight leaked through the curtains, barely lighting the room. It painted her face in pale silver, and that's when I saw her eyes. Wide open, staring at the ceiling, unblinking. "Sarah?" I said again, louder this time. Her lips trembled. Then she whispered something so soft. I almost didn't hear it. It kicked. I frowned. "That's normal," I said nervously. "Babies kick." But she slowly turned her head toward me. Her face was drenched in sweat, and her voice cracked when she spoke again. "No, Daniel," it kicked from the outside. A cold feeling spread through my chest. I forced a laugh. "What do you mean outside?" She didn't answer. Instead, her shaking hand slowly lifted and pointed at her stomach. "Watch," she whispered. I leaned closer. At first, nothing happened. Just silence. Then, thump. I froze. Not inside. Outside. Her belly moved. Not the gentle ripple of a baby kicking from within. No, this was different. Something pressed outward, hard enough to stretch her skin into a sharp, unnatural bulge. Like fingers. Long, thin, finger-shaped bulges. Pressing outward from her stomach. My throat tightened. That's just movement," I muttered, even though I didn't believe my own words. Then it happened again. Thump. Harder this time. The skin stretched again, but now I could clearly see 5 separate shapes. 5. Like a hand, trying to push its way out. Sarah screamed. A raw, animal scream that tore through the room. "Make it stop," she cried. I grabbed her shoulders, panicking. "It's okay. It's okay." I lied. But it wasn't okay, because as I stared at her stomach, the shapes moved. Not randomly. Not like a baby. No, they slid across her belly slowly, deliberately, like something searching, like something trying to find a way out. Then suddenly, the bedroom door creaked open, very slowly. Neither of us had touched it. Cold air drifted into the room, and that's when we both heard it. A whisper, right behind us, so close it felt like breath on my neck. "It's almost time." I spun around, but no one was there, just darkness, and the open door. Behind me, Sarah began sobbing uncontrollably. I turned back to her, and that's when I noticed something that made my blood turn to ice. Her stomach had stopped moving, completely still, too still, like whatever was inside her had heard the whisper and was now waiting. But what terrified me most wasn't what moved inside Sarah that night. It was what the hospital ultrasound showed the next morning, because there wasn't just one heartbeat anymore. Hospitals are supposed to feel safe. Bright lights, clean floors, the smell of antiseptic, doctors moving calmly like nothing bad could ever happen there. But that morning, the hospital felt colder than our bedroom that night. Sarah hadn't slept at all. Neither had I. She sat beside me in the waiting room, gripping my hand so tightly that my fingers were starting to go numb. Her face looked pale, almost gray, and there were deep shadows under her eyes. She hadn't said much since the whisper. Only one sentence, repeated again and again in a shaky voice. It moved like fingers. Daniel, fingers. I kept telling myself it was stress, pregnancy, anxiety, maybe muscle spasms. Maybe we imagined it. But deep down, I knew we didn't. "Sarah Williams?" a nurse called. We both stood instantly. The nurse smiled politely, but something about her expression felt forced, like she was trying too hard to look calm. "Dr. Harris will see you now." We followed her down a long hallway. Each step echoed louder than it should. Too loud, like the building itself was hollow. The ultrasound room was small and dimly lit. Machines hummed quietly in the background. Sarah climbed onto the bed, her hands trembling. "Relax," Dr. Harris said gently. "We'll just take a quick look." He squeezed cold gel onto her stomach. Sarah flinched. The moment the ultrasound probe touched her skin, the machine flickered. Just once. Dr. Harris frowned. Strange, he muttered. He adjusted the probe. Gray shapes appeared on the monitor, blurred, shifting shadows forming into the outline of the baby. I leaned forward, trying to steady my breathing. There, the doctor said. See? Everything looks. He stopped mid-sentence. His voice died instantly. The room went silent. Too silent. Sarah noticed it too. What? She whispered. What is it? Dr. Harris didn't answer. He stared at the screen, frozen. I followed his gaze. At first, I saw the baby. Small, curled, normal. Then I noticed the flicker on the side of the screen. A tiny blinking pulse. Another one. Separate. Not connected to the baby. My stomach dropped. 2 heartbeats. Clear. Steady. Rhythmic. Dr. Harris swallowed hard. That's not possible, he whispered under his breath. Sarah's voice shook. What's not possible? He hesitated, then forced a tight smile. Sometimes machines glitch, he said quickly. We'll run another scan. But his hands were trembling. I could see it. He repositioned the probe. The screen glitched again. Static lines flickered. Then suddenly, the second heartbeat moved. Not like a baby. Not like anything human. It shifted upward, toward the top of Sarah's stomach. The baby remained still, but the second pulse crawled across the screen like it had a mind of its own. Sarah gasped. Daniel, look. I didn't answer. I couldn't, because the screen zoomed slightly, and for one horrifying second, I saw fingers. Long, thin, curved inward, wrapped around the baby from behind, like something was holding it, protecting it, or claiming it. Dr. Harris jerked the probe away. The screen went blank. The room fell silent again. What did you see? Sarah demanded. No one answered. The doctor wiped sweat from his forehead. I'm scheduling an emergency scan, he said quickly. Immediately. His voice sounded wrong. Too tight. Too nervous. Sarah grabbed my arm. Daniel, tell me what you saw. I hesitated. I didn't want to tell her. But before I could speak, the ultrasound machine turned back on by itself. No one touched it. The screen flickered, then stabilized. And this time, there was only one image. Not the baby, not a heartbeat, just blackness. And inside that blackness, words appeared, slowly, letter by letter, as if something inside the machine was typing. I-A-M-C-L-O-S-E. Sarah screamed. The nurse dropped the tray she was holding. Metal clattered loudly across the floor. Dr. Harris stumbled backward, knocking into the wall. Then, the lights went out. Total darkness swallowed the room. And in that darkness, something inside Sarah moved again, harder than before, so hard that her stomach twisted unnaturally to one side. She screamed in pure agony. And then we heard it, a sound that did not belong inside a human body. A low, wet laugh coming from inside her. But the real horror didn't begin in that hospital room. It began later that night, when the doctor called me privately and told me the baby inside Sarah had died 3 weeks ago. We left the hospital before sunset, but the fear didn't leave with us. It followed, silent, heavy, suffocating. Sarah sat in the passenger seat, staring straight ahead, her hands resting protectively over her stomach. She hadn't spoken since the blackout in the ultrasound room. Not a single word. And that silence terrified me more than her screams. Outside, the sky had turned an unnatural shade of gray. Clouds swallowed the sunlight like something was choking it to death. I kept replaying the hospital scene in my head. The second heartbeat, the fingers, the words on the screen. I am close. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. But something inside me whispered, answer it. So I did. Hello. There was silence for a moment. Then a low, tense voice spoke. Daniel, it's Dr. Harris. I slowed the car. My throat tightened instantly. Doctor? What's going on? He didn't answer right away. I could hear breathing on the other side. Shaky breathing, like he was trying not to panic. Listen carefully, he whispered. You cannot tell Sarah what I'm about to say. Cold dread spread through my chest. What are you talking about? Another pause. Then he said something that made the world feel unreal. The baby inside Sarah died 3 weeks ago. I slammed the brakes so hard the tires screeched. What? I whispered. My voice barely came out. It's impossible, I said. We saw movement yesterday. No, he interrupted sharply. You didn't. My heart pounded violently. The last normal scan was 3 weeks ago, he continued. After that, there was no heartbeat. None. I felt dizzy, like the road beneath me was slipping away. That means I whispered slowly. That means whatever is moving inside her now. He finished the sentence for me. Is not your baby. My fingers tightened around the steering wheel. I couldn't breathe. Doctor, what did we see on the screen? I asked. He hesitated. And when he finally spoke, his voice sounded broken. I reviewed the recorded scan, he whispered, frame by frame. A long silence followed. Then, there was something wrapped around the fetus. My stomach twisted violently. Something with arms. My hands started shaking. And fingers. I swallowed hard. Doctor, what is it? His voice dropped to a whisper. I don't know, he said. But whatever it is, it started forming after the baby died. The call ended suddenly. No goodbye, no explanation, just silence. I sat there for several seconds, unable to move. Then slowly, I turned my head toward Sarah. She was staring at me, not blinking, not breathing heavily, just staring. How long? She asked softly. I shot through my veins. You heard that? I whispered. She nodded slowly. I heard everything. Her voice sounded wrong. Too calm, too steady, not scared anymore. That scared me even more. Then, she smiled. Not a warm smile, not a comforting one. A slow, unnatural, empty smile. Maybe it stayed, she whispered. My chest tightened. What do you mean? I asked. She placed both hands on her stomach and slowly rubbed it, like she was comforting something inside. Maybe it didn't want to leave, she said softly. The air inside the car suddenly felt colder. Then, thump, her stomach moved again, harder than ever before, so violently that her shirt stretched outward. And this time, I saw it clearly. Not just fingers, not just movement. A full hand-shaped bulge pressed outward from inside her stomach. 5 long shapes. Thin, too thin, not human. The skin stretched so tight. I thought it would tear open. Do you feel that? She whispered happily. Happily. That word didn't belong in this moment. I stared in horror as the hand-shaped bulge slowly dragged itself across her belly, moving upward, toward her chest, like something was crawling inside her, searching. Then suddenly, her smile vanished. Her face twisted into pure terror. Daniel, she gasped. What? What is it? Her eyes widened. Tears filled them instantly. It's climbing. My heart stopped. What's climbing? I whispered. Her lips trembled violently. And then she screamed. It's trying to reach my throat. Her body jerked violently forward. Her stomach twisted unnaturally again. Something inside her moved upward so fast it made her choke. And then, she vomited. Black liquid poured from her mouth. Thick, sticky, rotting. And inside that black liquid, something small dropped onto the car floor. Something pale, something wet, something that twitched once before going still. I looked down, and what I saw there made my soul freeze. It was a tiny gray finger, not from a baby, too long, too thin, too sharp, and it had a nail, a long, black, human-like nail. But the worst part wasn't the finger on the car floor, it was the message scratched into our front door when we finally reached home, because neither of us had written it. By the time we reached home, the sky was completely dark, not normal darkness, not the peaceful kind that comes after sunset. This felt heavier, thicker, like the night itself was watching us. Sarah hadn't spoken since the finger fell onto the car floor. She just sat there, breathing slowly, her hands resting over her stomach like she was protecting something precious. Not a baby, something else. I parked the car in front of our house, but for several seconds, I didn't move. Neither did she. The engine ticked quietly as it cooled. The silence pressed against my ears. Then Sarah whispered, "Why are you scared to go inside?" Her voice sounded calm again. Too calm. I'm not scared, I lied. But I was. Because something inside me already knew. Home wasn't safe anymore. I forced myself to open the car door. Cold air hit my face instantly. The streetlights flickered above us. 1, 2, 3 times. Then stabilized. That's when I noticed the front door. At first, it looked normal. Closed. Locked. Still. But as I stepped closer, my stomach twisted violently. There were scratches on the wood. Deep ones. Fresh ones. Like someone had dragged something sharp across the surface again and again. And in the center of the door, words, carved roughly into the wood. Not written with ink. Scratched. Violently. Desperately. I leaned closer, my heart pounding louder with every step. Sarah walked slowly behind me. Silent. Watching. Waiting. Then I read the words. And every drop of warmth drained from my body. Let me finish what you started. I froze. My breath stopped. Sarah stepped beside me. She read it too. And then she laughed. Softly, quietly. A slow, broken laugh that did not belong to her. "That's not funny," I whispered hoarsely. But she didn't stop laughing. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, like she was listening to something I couldn't hear. "Daniel," she whispered. "What?" Her hand slowly lifted and touched the scratched words on the door. Her fingers traced the letters gently, like she recognized them, like they meant something to her. "I remember," she whispered. Cold fear crawled up my spine. "Remember what?" I asked. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she pressed her forehead lightly against the door, then whispered something that made my blood freeze solid. "The basement." I stared at her. "We don't have a basement," I said quickly. "Or at least, I thought we didn't." Sarah slowly turned toward me. Her eyes looked darker now. Not physically dark, but deeper. Empty. "Wrong." "Yes," she said calmly. "We do." The front door suddenly unlocked by itself. Click. Neither of us touched the handle. It slowly creaked open. Cold air rushed out from inside the house, far colder than the night outside. And then, a smell hit us. Rotting. Wet. Sweet and sickening. Like spoiled meat left in water for weeks. I gagged. Sarah inhaled deeply, like she enjoyed it. "Home," she whispered softly. We stepped inside. Every light in the house was off. Total darkness swallowed everything. But faint sounds echoed from somewhere below. A slow, wet, dragging sound. Scrape, scrape, like something heavy was being pulled across concrete. My heart slammed violently against my ribs. "We should leave," I whispered urgently. But Sarah shook her head. "No," she said calmly. "It's been waiting." My throat tightened. "What's been waiting?" She didn't answer. Instead, she walked forward into the darkness, toward the hallway, toward the kitchen. And that's when I noticed something impossible. The kitchen floor had a metal hatch in the center, a hatch that had never been there before. It was slightly open. Darkness leaked from inside it. And from that darkness came the sound again. Scrape, scrape, something moving below, something alive, something patient. Sarah stopped in front of the hatch. Her breathing slowed. Her hands rested over her stomach again. Then slowly, very slowly, she knelt down and placed her ear against the metal, listening, waiting, smiling. My legs felt weak. "Sarah," I whispered, "step away from that." She ignored me. Instead, she whispered softly into the darkness below. We came back. Silence followed. Heavy, unnatural silence. Then, something inside the hatch answered. Not with words, not with movement, but with a single heavy thud, so loud, it shook the entire floor. I stumbled backward. Sarah didn't move. She just smiled wider. And then, the metal hatch began to open. From the inside. Slowly, deliberately, like whatever was down there had been waiting for this moment. Waiting for us. Waiting for her. Waiting for the thing growing inside her to come home. But what crawled out of that basement wasn't the creature I feared most. It was what Sarah whispered to it when she saw it. And she called it by a name I had never heard before. The metal hatch didn't open fast. It opened slowly, deliberately, like whatever was underneath wanted us to watch every second of it. Creak. The sound scraped through my ears like rusted nails. Cold air rushed out of the opening, thicker than before, filled with that same rotten smell. But now there was something else mixed into it. A faint metallic scent. Blood. Sarah didn't move. She knelt in front of the hatch, smiling softly, her hands resting over her stomach like she was greeting someone familiar. My legs refused to step forward. Every instinct inside me screamed to run. But I couldn't leave her. Not yet. The hatch lifted higher. Darkness shifted inside the hole. Then, something moved. At first, I saw only fingers. Long, gray, too thin to belong to anything human. They curled slowly over the edge of the metal frame. The nails were long, cracked, blackened at the tips. Exactly like the finger that fell onto the car floor. My breath stopped. Another hand appeared. Then another. Too many fingers. Too many joints. They gripped the edge and pulled upward. And then, it crawled out. I wish I could say it had a shape. A clear form. Something understandable. But it didn't. Its body twisted like wet rope. Limbs bent at impossible angles. Its skin looked stretched and torn, like it didn't fit properly over what was underneath. And its head, dear God, its head looked unfinished, like clay pressed together by shaking hands. No proper eyes, just deep, hollow dents. but it still looked at us. I felt it. That horrible feeling of being watched, even though it had no eyes. Sarah leaned closer. Not afraid. Not shaking. Calm. Almost loving. My stomach twisted violently. "Sarah," I whispered. "Step away." She ignored me. Instead, she reached forward and gently touched the creature's hand. Her fingers brushed its gray skin. The creature froze instantly, like it recognized her touch. Then Sarah whispered something that made my heart stop. "Malik." The name echoed in the room. Soft. Ancient. Wrong. The creature shuddered violently. Its head tilted toward her, like a dog recognizing its owner. Cold terror flooded my chest. "Sarah," I whispered hoarsely. "How do you know that name?" She didn't answer. Instead, she smiled wider. Then she said something that shattered everything I thought I knew about her. "Because I made him." The words slammed into me like a physical blow. "What?" I whispered. My voice barely existed. Her hand rested gently over her stomach. "It started years ago." She whispered softly. Her voice sounded distant now, like she was remembering something buried deep inside her mind. "Before you," she said. "Before this house." My throat tightened. "Sarah, what are you talking about?" She didn't look at me. She kept staring at the creature. "At Malik." "I was pregnant once before," she whispered. Ice crawled through my veins. "You never told me that," I said weakly. She nodded slowly. "Because it wasn't supposed to happen." The creature moved closer to her, crawling, dragging its twisted body across the floor. "Scrape, scrape. I lost the baby," she continued. Her voice cracked slightly, but I couldn't let it go. My breathing grew shallow. "What did you do?" I whispered. She closed her eyes slowly, like she was ashamed, but not enough to regret it. "I found a woman," she said quietly. "Someone who promised she could bring him back." My heart pounded violently. "No," I whispered. "Yes," she said softly. Her lips trembled. "She told me to bury the body under this house." The room felt smaller, the air heavier. She said if I fed the earth, it would grow again. My stomach twisted violently. "What did you feed it?" I whispered. Sarah finally turned her head toward me. Her eyes looked darker now, colder, almost hollow. Then she answered, and her words felt like knives tearing into my mind. "Pieces of myself." The creature let out a low, wet sound, almost like a sigh. "Satisfied. Happy." "I gave it blood," she continued. "Skin, nails, hair." My legs trembled violently. "And when it started moving," she whispered, smiling faintly, "I knew he wasn't gone." The creature crawled closer to her stomach, slowly, hungrily. Then, it pressed its head gently against her belly, and her stomach moved again, violently, like something inside her was trying to answer it, trying to reach it, trying to reunite. I staggered backward, unable to process what I was seeing. "Sarah," I whispered, "that thing isn't your baby." She looked at me, and her smile returned. Slow, wide, unnatural. Then she whispered something that made my blood freeze solid. "No, Daniel." Her voice softened, almost gentle. "You are." My mind went blank. "What?" I whispered. But before she could explain, the creature suddenly turned its head toward me, and for the first time, its mouth opened, wide, too wide, stretching unnaturally across its face. And from inside that dark, wet mouth, a voice crawled out. Not Sarah's, not mine, not human. "Father." But the final horror hadn't happened yet, because what Sarah revealed next about my own past made me realize I had been part of this nightmare long before we ever met. The creature's mouth stayed open, too wide, too deep, like it didn't end inside, like it led somewhere else. And that voice, "Father," it echoed through the kitchen like it belonged there, like it had spoken that word before, many times. My heart pounded violently against my ribs. "I'm not your father," I whispered. My voice sounded weak, small, useless. Sarah slowly stood up beside the creature. Her hand rested gently on its twisted head, like she was calming an animal. "You are," she whispered softly. I shook my head violently. "No, that's not possible." But deep inside, something felt wrong. Not fear, not confusion, recognition. A horrible sense that something buried inside my mind was trying to wake up. "Tell him," Sarah whispered to the creature. The thing turned toward me again, its head tilted slightly. Then, it began crawling toward me. Scrape, scrape. Its body dragged across the floor, leaving a dark, wet trail behind it. I stumbled backward until my back hit the wall. Nowhere left to go, nowhere to run. "Stay away," I shouted, But it didn't stop. Instead, it raised one long, gray hand toward me. And suddenly, my head exploded with pain. A sharp, burning pressure tore through my skull. I screamed. And then, the memories came back. Not slowly, not gently, all at once, like a flood breaking through a dam. I saw a hospital room. Not Sarah's, not recent. Old. Years ago. A woman screaming in pain. Doctors shouting. Machines beeping wildly. And then, I saw myself, standing beside the bed. Younger. Terrified. Holding someone's hand. A woman I barely recognized. But deep inside, I knew her. Her name surfaced in my mind like something pulled from deep water. Elena. My first wife. The one who died years ago. Or at least, that's what I believed. My breath became shallow. Cold sweat covered my skin. What did you do to me? I whispered. Sarah stepped closer. Her face looked strangely calm. You forgot, she said softly. I didn't forget anything. I shouted. But even as I said it, more memories returned. Dark ones, buried ones. Things I had never allowed myself to remember. Elena was pregnant. 9 months. Ready to give birth. But something went wrong. Very wrong. The baby didn't cry. Didn't move. Didn't breathe. Dead. Born dead. I remembered the doctor's face. The pity in his eyes. The way he whispered the words. We're sorry, the baby didn't survive. I dropped to my knees. My body trembled violently. No, I whispered. But Sarah continued speaking. You didn't let it go, she said quietly. Her voice echoed like it came from far away. You begged them to give you the body. My stomach twisted violently. No, I repeated weakly. But I remembered now. I remembered digging. Late at night. Behind the old house we once lived in. Digging into the dirt with shaking hands. Burying something small. Something wrapped in cloth. My breath hitched violently. You fed the earth, Sarah whispered. My head snapped up. What? Her smile widened slowly. You started it, she said softly. Ice flooded my veins. No, I whispered. Yes, she said gently. You opened the door. The creature crawled closer again, now only a few feet away. And then, it did something that shattered what little sanity I had left. It touched my face. Cold, wet, rotting. And suddenly, I felt it. Not outside, not in my head, inside my chest. A second heartbeat. Slow, heavy, wrong. Thump, thump. My breathing stopped. I grabbed my chest violently. What is happening to me? I gasped. Sarah stepped even closer. Her eyes locked onto mine. You were never supposed to survive, she whispered. My heart pounded violently. What does that mean? Her lips curled into a slow, unnatural smile. The ritual wasn't meant to save the child, she said quietly. It was meant to move it. My blood turned to ice. Move it, I whispered. She nodded slowly. From one body into another. My hands trembled violently. No, but it was too late. The creature opened its mouth again. Wide, wider, impossible. And from inside it, something moved. A long, black shape sliding outward. Like a tongue. No, not a tongue. A cord. Wet, rotting, pulsing. Like an umbilical cord. It shot forward suddenly and stabbed straight into my chest. I screamed. Agony exploded through my body. White-hot pain tore through my ribs, through my lungs, through my heart. And then, everything changed. I felt my bones shift. My skin tighten. My heartbeat slow, then multiply. 2 beats. Then 3. Then more. Too many. My fingers twisted violently. Stretching. Lengthening. My nails darkened. Blackened. Sharp. I screamed, but my voice didn't sound human anymore. It sounded deeper. Wet. Wrong. Sarah stepped back. Watching. Smiling. Proud. Like a mother watching her child walk for the first time. Welcome back, she whispered softly. The last thing I saw, before my vision faded, was my reflection in the dark window. And what stared back at me wasn't human anymore. It was unfinished, twisted, growing, hungry, just like the thing that crawled out of the basement, just like the thing that once grew inside her. And as my mind faded into darkness, I heard Sarah whisper one final sentence. Soft, gentle, terrifying. This time you won't die. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment telling me what part scared you the most. And remember, some things buried in the past don't stay buried forever.